Joe Confino from The Guardian. It's all very well coming up with more statistics and more rationale, but the fact is, isn't it true that it's not rationale that's going to change? The fact is that, as the Minister from Indonesia said, we have short-termism in business, we have short-termism in the political system, and more facts and more rational debate is not going to answer. I mean, shouldn't you have a global commission on the psychology of human behaviour and change? Because actually, you know, the new report from the United Nations Global Compact, increasing numbers of business leaders saying they don't have a business case for change. That 37% of 1,000 CEOs say they cannot find the business case between action on sustainability and they can't find it. So, I mean, aren't you actually just trying to be all in your heads and going in the wrong direction?
Let's have a political answer from a man who's led a country, and then Jeremy, how are you going to handle it?
Actually, mine is not going to be a political answer. We'll try to be a business answer. So all this time we have talked about emissions, and that is correct. But this time we will try to talk about profits, and that could change the equation. So we want to make the economic case of tackling climate change. We want to talk about economic growth, number of jobs we can create, and profits for investment and business. I think it's the right thing to do that because, in my perception, most of the people understand what the problem is related with climate change. So the scientific part of this is, in one way or another, is absolutely clear. And we will see that in the fifth assessment report. But we have not yet the economic case for that, and that is our task 1 year from now.
Thank you, President. Jeremy.
Let me just offer a couple of thoughts in response. I mean, first is that, I mean, as you say, 37% said that they couldn't make the case linking sustainability and their short-term economic agenda. But the good news is that 63% could see that there was a case. And our task, I think, is to work with both sets, but in the sense, particularly with the 63% that say there is a case, to help them not just do a small amount on sustainability, because almost all the companies that I've worked with over years do something on sustainability, but what we want them to do is to figure out how to scale it up. And there are companies out there already doing that, and there are companies who are hugely successful scaling up their business strategies with sustainability inside. And we've got to figure out how more of that can happen. It's not going to happen just with the business community alone. And one of the messages, I think, of this commission, as we do the work, is that it's not a question of, you know, either policy or markets. You know, it's a question of bringing the two together, and we all know that. I mean, it's good policy combined with markets that work, combined with entrepreneurs that will add up to making the difference here.
Thank you. Yes.
Do I need a microphone?
Yeah. Could we pass the microphone around, please?
Maybe if I just could add to the last question while you're finding a microphone. I think the psychology is really interesting, and we could look back and see what happened in the minds of people and leaders when we went from steam to electricity, or with the digitalization of companies and of the world. And I hope that this commission will well, in a time of technical change or engineering revolution, there are always winners and losers. I hope that this commission could see to that we have more winners.
Absolutely. Here's a question, microphone there.
Thanks. Hi, Lisa Friedman from Climate Wire. Thanks for doing this today. Can you talk a little bit more about how you see this playing into the Secretary General's meeting next year and what you'd like to see that meeting look like and do? Thanks.
Would you like to say a word then, Idea?
So, first of all, the climate summit, which the Secretary General is developing, is work in progress, right? As you know. So, we are very much hoping that this report will contribute and provide some of the, if you will, the intellectual foundation that permeates across the various initiatives that will be developed and explored through the process of the summit. I think one thing that we come back to time and again is that the work here has got to be relevant in in countries and in markets across the world. I mean, this is a global commission, and at the end of the day, we know that there's a challenge of global collective action. At the same time, to have real impact, the findings and learnings that we develop must make sense on the ground. So a lot of our work will be around understanding the policies, understanding the actions that make sense in very different contexts, in very different, in countries that are at very different stages of economic development. So we'll balance at all times the global perspective and connecting with decision makers on the ground.
What I'd say 1 year from now is a report in which we can present a set of conclusions and very pragmatical recommendations for governments and businesses. And the idea is that we can present an economic case. For instance, in the COP16 in Mexico, one of the big changes we made there that we included the REDD+ mechanism as a way in order to reduce emissions. And with REDD+ mechanism, by first time ever, developing countries established clear commitments in order to reduce emissions. Now I can imagine the report, for instance, we can collect the experience that Minister of Indonesia was saying a few minutes ago. What happened in Indonesia with REDD+ mechanism, what is working, what is not working, what can we do, and we can show to the governments some kind of recommendation saying you can do this or that in order to promote these kind of projects. And we can present to the business community alternatives of profitable business, in this case in forestry, but we can do the same in saving energy industries or whatever. So that is the kind of recommendations or the scenario I'm looking ahead. Actually, we do believe that people could be agree or not with our report. But in some sense, what we are expecting is the report could not be ignored in September 2014. And there are a lot of meetings regarding not only the United Nations Leaders Summit, which is very important, but also there are several COPs, Conference of the Parties, starting right now in Poland, and next year in Peru, and even in 2015 in France. Our goal is to do the work in this year, starting today. But of course, we are expecting that the sound conclusion we are looking for could have some kind of influence in all those decisions coming ahead.
Great.